My family and I think that my cousin is faking her pregnancy. What can we do? I know this is going to sound wacky, but I really am at a loss at what I or my family can do. I, 30 female, have a cousin, 28 female, we'll call her W, who announced her pregnancy late last year. She should be due in the next month or so, but my family is having huge doubts that she's actually pregnant. I really should stress that we're not close at all. We were raised together up until I was around 6, but I genuinely haven't spoken to her in decades due to distance. My mum, however, is close to W's older sister, Z. Excluding my mum, we all live in the same city. My mum has been really worried about W and shared some new information with me that I didn't know about. Last April, W made a post about how she would block anyone who made a fake pregnancy post for April Fool's Day, because she recently found out that she was infertile. Very vague, her exact words were, "I found out I can't carry children." She eventually deleted that post, and then a few months later, announced she was pregnant. She's not in a relationship and hasn't revealed who the father is. Our family genuinely wouldn't have a problem with her having a child out of wedlock or whatever, but she's being super cagey about his identity. She floated IVF around at first, but A, there's no way she could have afforded that, and B, she refuses to confirm or deny it. W is the kind of person who loves taking pictures and daily selfies for Insta. No shade, I'm just setting the scene. Ever since she made the announcement, she hasn't posted any photos of herself. My mum thought that was really weird. As excited as W is to be a mum, shouldn't she be taking more pictures of her baby bump? No one has seen W in person since she announced the pregnancy. She was pretty close with her sisters Y and Z, but suddenly she's been impossible to meet up with. If they offer to drop food off for her lunch, she works in a demanding field, she has a million reasons why they can't come by, despite them being more than welcome pre-announcement. She had a baby shower a few weeks ago that was being organized by a friend of hers. On the day of the shower, our family members arrived at a listed address, but couldn't find the party. They called and texted her to ask for her to come out to find them, and she blocked them. They never got to see her. W announced that she's having a second baby shower, but that it's going to be in a completely different city. It's not even close to her hometown, where her family still lives. My concern is that W might be going through some kind of mental health crisis. My mum is also afraid that she might try to kidnap an infant or hurt someone. I guess I don't know how to approach this situation, and I'm looking for advice. At best, maybe she had a one-night stand and she's ashamed, but that wouldn't explain her refusing to see us. She could be lying, but she has a baby registry and everything. She could be planning to adopt, but again, our family really wouldn't have an issue with that, so it still doesn't explain her secrecy. Or again, she's having a mental health crisis and needs professional help. She recently moved and hasn't given anyone her address, and her job is in an office building that has private parking. So I don't think we could catch her going to or from work without creating an incident, and I wouldn't want to put her job in jeopardy for nothing. What should we do? In the comments, Even Budget says, quote, "My concern is that W might be going through some kind of mental health crisis. My mum is afraid she might try to kidnap an infant or hurt someone." Honestly, I was getting exactly the same feeling before I came to this line. Can you or someone in your family reach out to the friend host of the first baby shower? I'm assuming this shower actually happened, and at least this friend saw her. You need to be very careful as to how you approach this, because either 1, she's going through something and this could easily escalate if the friend doesn't know that she was hosting and it was all a lie, or 2, she's not lying and it's just something with your family. I would suggest an invitee of the first baby shower to approach the host and just explain that they were sorry to miss it and can they bring by a present. See what the friend says and assess from there. OP replies, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'm in the baby shower invite group still, so I should be able to figure out their contact information." This is good advice. If there's anyone besides family that you know on the list, that's who I'd approach. Just keep it casual and say something like you've had trouble getting in touch with her and wanted to see if she needed anything. See where it goes from there. I had a friend that had pseudocyesis. If that is what your cousin is experiencing, you'll need to handle it very carefully. My friend went through it twice, and it can be heartbreaking. Your cousin would need some type of professional help. Someone else asks, are you sure she's not in a relationship? Because while this does sound like a mental health crisis, it also sounds like the way someone isolates themselves in an abusive relationship. If she's with a new guy who is super controlling, everything still makes sense. OP replies, pretty sure I think. She makes posts about looking for a partner who will treat her right, or how she's enjoying her solitude and won't break it for just anyone. That sort of thing. Back up to the post, there's a small update. I managed to get a hold of W's friend, and I'm going to be meeting up with them this week to pass along a small gift basket for W and voice my concerns. I did find out that W has also started her maternity leave and is due in the coming weeks, though of course this is still through word of mouth from her friend, who doesn't work with her. I really want to stress that I hope that we're all wrong about this. While I'm still hopeful that this is all stemming from some sort of anxiety over what I think is a high-risk pregnancy, I would feel like absolute shit if it turned out that W was going through a mental health crisis alone. Thank you to everyone who advised me on how to approach this. When I speak to her friend, I will focus on wanting to support W however she needs, and that we just want her to be happy and healthy, and then go from there. I think the most likely situation here is that she is going through a mental health crisis, and that she is avoiding people that could potentially help her out of that mental health crisis, or that she views as a threat. I guess that's my read on the situation. Don't come at me in the comments being like, Marky, you're literally not a trained psychologist. You're not a professional. You should not be speaking on this. Forgive a man for having hobbies. Jeez Louise. My hobbies is making stupid assumptions about stupid situations, and yet you keep coming back here to listen to me make these assumptions. Thank you for coming back, guys. I love the support. But no, for real. That behavior of hers is very concerning, and I've seen similar behavior in a friend of mine in my own personal life. And in that case, it was very serious mental illness, very deeply serious mental illness, in which that person had been involuntarily admitted for, I think it was a 72-hour hold, and then after the fact, they are going themselves to commit themselves for probably a month after realizing how destructive their behavior has become. And that, I respect that. That's some real gumption for someone to have the self-awareness to realize, damn, my behavior is incredibly destructive and it's pushing others away and it's not acceptable. I don't know if that's going to happen in this case, but there are patterns that come up with people like that where they are incredibly avoidant when something significant is happening in their life, and they block and push people away, and in my experience, it has been incredibly detrimental mental health episodes. We'll see what happens with this one, but what can you do, OP? Take the advice of the comments, get through to a friend of a friend that is, not going to be like, oh, they're trying to get you, they're doing all of this, you need to push me away as well, you can't trust anyone. I think a very soft approach is what's needed here. And now, onto the update. So about a month ago, I posted here asking for advice regarding my cousin W and some concerning behaviors my family had noticed. I didn't address all of the questions in the comments, but I did want to clear up a few things. If you aren't close to W, then why are you getting involved? I wasn't completely forthcoming with W and I's ages and backstory for privacy's sake. We're actually both the same age, born a few weeks apart. Girls are really rare in my family, so when we were younger, we were raised together in my hometown. We come from a big-ass country family before I moved 300 plus miles away. Anyone else getting a feeling that femicide runs deep in the family? My mother and I visited in the summer until I entered high school, and W was, and still is, very close with her. W and I spent time together too, but there was always a bit of a disconnect between us due to interests and distance. To her, I was the only female family member her age to do all the feminine things that she didn't get to do with her brother during the school year. Manicures, playing dress-up, etc. To me, summertime in the country was my opportunity to roll around in the dirt, bike to the river, and let my hair turn into a rat's nest. My mum was always happy to do that kind of stuff with W when I would refuse, and that is how they bonded. With my mum living across the country now, she's effectively been asking me to help check up on W in her stead. Someone else asked, how do you know that she doesn't have the money for IVF? OP says, a month or so before her pregnancy announcement, she had to downsize her apartment and traded in her car for one that had a lower monthly payment and told her sisters that it was becoming too expensive on just her income alone. She also mentioned that she hardly had any savings at the time because she paid off her student loans in one lump sum. Someone else asks, what about her mum and dad? How are you the only closely aged girl in the family if she has sisters? OP says, it's kinda complicated. W and her sisters have different mums, and they have a pretty significant age gap between the siblings. W has a brother close in age, but the rest of her brothers and sisters are minimum 20 years older than W. Furthermore, W's mum has suffered from major medical issues for a while, so W's maternal grandparent, who is very old now, was her primary guardian growing up. W's dad, my great-uncle, passed away over 20 years ago. My mum was his niece, so technically we're first cousins once removed. To demonstrate the age gap a different way, W's sisters are the older cousins that my mum grew up with. I hope that answers some questions. As far as the update itself goes, there's still a lot happening, but here's the main bits. As per the advice I got from the commenters here, I reached out to the host of the baby shower, F, who is a friend of W's, and asked if we could meet up so I could give her a gift basket for W. We met at a coffee place, exchanged pleasantries, etc., before I shared my concerns about W. I reassured F that I just wanted to make sure W was okay, and that if her reticence towards us was due to some fault on our end, I would back off. F looked really uncomfortable while I was asking all of this, and made me promise that I wouldn't tell where W got this information from before she started showing me her and W's text messages. In a nutshell, the baby is real. W had a one-night stand with an older guy, G, who's in a managerial position at her job, and she got pregnant. He's in a different department than her, but the two departments basically share the same office space. Initially, G didn't want anything to do with the baby, and W agreed that she would raise it alone. However, I guess he ended up talking to his mum, M, about it, and she began pressuring him to get involved. G is a widower with no children, so it seems M feels like this will be her only opportunity to have a grandchild. The few ultrasound pictures W gave G were promptly shared all over social media by M, effectively doxing her. M and some of her friends started messaging and pressuring W to enter a real relationship with her son so that M's only grandchild wouldn't be born a bastard. Additionally, M started showing up every other day to their office to have lunch with G, but would use the opportunity to continue to pressure W for more information about her pregnancy. W didn't go to HR because she was afraid that she would lose her job for improper fraternization. So W basically went ghost on social media to keep M from stealing her pictures and harassing her, and refused to let her sisters show up for lunch because she didn't want them to run into M. She's feeling very ashamed of how this is all playing out and doesn't want her sisters to escalate the situation, which, to be fair, is a genuine concern. Her sisters are former college basketball players and are not afraid to throw hands. G is very lukewarm on the whole thing. He doesn't want to be an active dad, but wants W to put him on the birth certificate so that his family, aka M, can have access to the baby. He's willing to pay child support, but W doesn't trust M to respect her boundaries. The dude pretty much only reaches out to W when M tells him to. The baby shower, or showers, were kind of the last straw between W and G. The first shower was going to be for W's family and friends, while the second was for G's family. F, who used to be W's co-worker, agreed to host it at her condo. G asked if he could drop off a gift before the party started, and W agreed, so long as he left before her guests arrived. So naturally, he arrives 20 minutes into the event with M and some of her friends in tow, fully expecting to be greeted and treated like honored guests. F and some of her other guests got into an extended screaming match with M and her friends, and it was during this fight that W's sisters started calling because they couldn't find the correct condo. W blocked them because she didn't want them to show up and escalate the fight. It was mortifying for W because none of her friends and co-workers, except for F, knew about the full situation, so that cat was now out of the bag. The second baby shower still happened, but without W. M basically threw it for herself 200 miles away and has now been saying that she's going to fight for full custody of the baby. G is continuing to be the definition of milquetoast about his mother's escalating threats and effectively spent the last few months at work ignoring W unless absolutely necessary. All of that was dropped on me on a Thursday morning at 8 a.m. F had plenty of text messages and screenshots that W had sent them over the last 7 months corroborating her story. W keeps M muted so that she can keep collecting evidence to use against her. In several of them, W expressed feeling too embarrassed about the whole thing to talk to our family about it. A day or two later, W called me. I had put my number in a card in the gift basket and told her that I was always here to just listen in case she felt alone or sad or angry, and that she could never disappoint me, because she's my cousin and I love her. She thanked me for the gift, and we kind of tiptoed around the conversation for a while. She'd say something like, "Yeah, I'm doing okay, all things considered." And I'd respond, "That's great, W. I know that things haven't been the easiest lately." Eventually, she broached the topic of G, and I initially pretended that I didn't know anything about it, just so that she could get it off her chest. We spent 5 hours on the phone talking about everything that happened and what she should do moving forward. I showed W my original post, and reading that my mum thought she might try to kidnap a baby made W laugh so hard she snorted, which honestly made my heart feel so much lighter. I also confessed that F told me about everything in advance, but only because we were all so worried about her. I suggested that W call my mum and talk to her about everything. I reminded W that she raised my brother and I as a single mum too, and might have some advice to give about the legal side of things. My mum eventually shot me a message a few days later saying that W called and talked to her about the situation. With all of that being said, W had her baby this week. Both mum and baby are healthy and are heading home soon. W has her sisters with her in the hospital and finally told them the full story. They are, predictably, ready to pop the trunk on M, but first and foremost, they're helping W look into what legal options she has to protect her baby from M. She hasn't told G about the birth yet, but M has been blowing her phone up because she knows W is due around this time. She has a very generous maternity leave, but afterwards, W is considering leaving that job because of G. I think she should still report it to HR, but one step at a time. W gave me permission to post this update, but past that, I won't be updating anymore about W's situation. I really appreciate all the advice from my original thread. All I wanted to do was make sure my cousin has the support she needs, and I feel like we're on the right track to being able to help her now. In the comments, Brought Bag Lunch Smart says, "Stealing a baby would have been less drama than this. Yikes. It's just mind-blowing how your cousin is dealing with all of this drama. Especially alone until now. I'd be dealing with the crazy alone if my relatives were a bunch of gossiping see-you-next-Tuesdays whose first thoughts when something seems not quite normal is to decide that I was a baby-stealing pregnancy faker. What the hell?" Sleepy Feline says, "Girls are rare in your family, and you're the only one W had to do feminine stuff with, but she has multiple sisters who meet her for lunch, go to baby showers, and are helping with the baby? The only one her age. Her sisters might be significantly older or younger. If her sisters were older, they might have been away at college when she was growing up, married, working, etc., but now that they're all adults, they were able to bond and have those sorts of relationships." OP says, "Yep, this is basically it. I mentioned it in a comment to my previous post, but I'll update. It's kinda complicated. W and her sisters have different mums, and they have a pretty significant age gap between the siblings. Furthermore, W's mum has suffered from major medical issues for a while, so W's grandparent was her primary guardian growing up. You know what, I think it was a decent enough ending to this story, and that W is going to get the support she needs. Obviously, I was wrong about my assumption, as I am many times, and I made an ass out of you and me for that. Regardless, I do hope that everyone slowly comes together and helps her out in a non-judgmental way, in a way that she can feel safe, seen, and appreciated, and not feel like she is threatened or judged, like I assume she thought was going to happen before, especially with them, punching before talking. That would not have been fun. And I imagine if she had come up into the house while that baby shower was going down with M and all of the fighting happening then, it would have just been even worse. Police would have been called at a minimum. For my sake, I wanted that to happen though. I wanted to see the blow up and what happened as a result of it. But I understand we can't always have what we want. I wish her all the best of luck dealing with that family, dealing with M, who is non-stop harassing her and trying to get full custody of the child. I don't think that's going to go as well as she expects, and that sounds like a lot more drama than it's worth. If it were me, if I were in W's shoes, I would choose not to have a child with anyone in that family personally. But that is a choice that W has made. She is prepared for it, and she will deal with it. And I give her my full trust in that situation. Thank you for the story, OP. Our next post is by user Compromised, and it's titled, "My boyfriend, 28 male, told me, 24 female, that he's pro-life and refuses to wear protection. In the 3 years we've been dating, the political views of women's reproductive rights never came up, and I wish I had this conversation years ago, and I do blame myself for this. We've always had unprotected sex. Part of us was okay with getting pregnant, and we said if it happens, we'd be okay with it, and we're in a financial, mental, and emotional spot where we were able to raise a child. I have always been pro-choice, and last weekend, during a conversation, he told me he is pro-life. I never knew this was a deal-breaker, and now I'm so unsure of what to do. Although I think I'm positive this isn't something I can come back from, I'm truly seeking honest advice. I tried explaining my side and seeing if we could come to some agreement, but he was very set on his views, as am I. I told him, out of respect for my body and my boundaries, that we need to start using a condom until we are absolutely sure we want to bring a life into this world. He laughed at me. We were driving on a road trip, so there was no time to test that, but the next night we got into an argument, and it got really bad. He had mentioned, mind you, very drunk, but still said it, that women are too emotional to have political conversations like this, and that the decision of her reproductive rights is a conversation for men. I can just hear a million head slaps and a lot of people laughing at that one because, damn, he's the whole circus for saying that. At that point, I was obviously completely appalled and hurt. He apologized in the morning, but nothing has sat right with me since. The last night we were together, he was trying to have sex with me. I told him respectfully he needs to go buy condoms. He laughed, and eventually, after going back and forth, got visibly angry and said he'd rather not have sex with me at all than use a condom. You can believe we did not hook up, and I nearly haven't spoken with him since. I don't think I can be with someone like that. I tried discussing this with my family, but they told me that it's not worth breaking up over. I just needed to vent about this and possibly hear from the community. Bro, with family like that, who needs, a family that you don't like, huh? In the comments, OK Cheetah says, quote, that women are too emotional to have political conversations like this, and that the decision of her reproductive rights is a conversation for men. No, no, no. This line alone is worth breaking up over. How can you be with someone who doesn't respect your rights? Yup, someone who thinks women are too emotional to make decisions, who thinks men aren't emotional. Anger is an emotion, my dude. Contempt is an emotion. Women are so emotional. But I can list like 5 men I know personally off the top of my head who have driven their fists through drywall in fits of rage, but not one woman who's done the same. Your mileage may vary, but just saying. And you're still dating him? Girl, OP replies, I know. The immediate no's from this community just showed me everything. There's obviously more to a relationship, but a part of me is always afraid to leave because of actions and behaviors he's shown when I tried before. This thread is just showing me how brainwashed I became. Were those actions threatening? If so, make sure you have help in getting away from him, but do get away. You deserve better than to date misogynist trash. OP replies, never threats to physically hurt me, but threats to off himself and would call me saying he had a gun, etc. My dad is a police officer and tried explaining how very obvious these manipulation tactics are, and at the time I saw it, but over time, it just fell into the past. I'm starting to realize the lack of respect I have for myself. Holy hell. And now, onto the update. Holy shit, I did not expect this feedback. This has brought to light how brainwashed I've become with him. To the people asking about my safety, we are long distance, and I do feel safe enough to end things. My head is spinning and I'm dizzy, but thank you all so much. I can't express this enough. I'd also like to add, I'm 100% going to be seeking out a therapist to help me understand healthy relationships, boundaries, speaking up, communication, everything. Thank you all for helping me see this. Hi, final update. I told him about this thread and was honestly just trying to open his eyes, and he's now denying everything. He's still saying he's pro-life, and he's saying he never claimed that I shouldn't have a choice among other things. I took everyone's advice and muted, but didn't block in case I ever needed to save the messages. Shaking and freaking out, but you're all incredible and lifesavers. I will be having this conversation very early with anyone I'm interested in, and I will stand up for myself. Well, I for one am very glad that the mask slipped now and not later, not after she did accidentally or intentionally get pregnant with this guy, because Jesus Christ, what a heel turn, huh? He just went from like completely normal, chill guy to absolute raging psychopath over one thing. See, if he was a more normal person, you'd be able to talk out this situation and have a normal discourse about it and be like, you know what? This is a deal breaker for the both of us. I respect that. And maybe it's time for us to go our separate ways and find someone that we're more compatible with. And he's like, actually, women are too emotional to discuss anything about relationships as well. You will not be leaving this one. I will be having sex with you without a condom. I will be threatening you if you try to leave this relationship because, you're too emotional to handle yourself. Therefore, you are my property, and me as a man, I will get to discuss your reproductive rights and your ability to stay in this relationship or not. I'll also gaslight you and say, actually, I never claimed that you shouldn't have a choice among other things. No, that's not at all what I said out of anger when I was not being emotional at all in that argument that we had. My final statements to you are, stop believing the things that you see with your eyes and hear with your ears because they are deceiving you. You were lying to yourself and living in a different reality than the one you have experienced. I don't know, I'm rambling at this point, but Jesus Christ, I don't even know if having these conversations early on in a relationship will work because people like him are just gonna lie. Why wouldn't he lie about it? If he wants to be with someone like OP, he's gonna lie until he gets what he wants and then do this heel turn pivot bullshit. I think if anything, he's just gonna learn from this situation how to be more deceiving, how to be more manipulative and controlling, and not make the same mistakes he's made here. It's unfortunate that that happens. It's great that OP got out, but I feel sad for his next victim. And I don't really know if there's any way to change that cycle. Thank you for the story, OP. I, for one, am glad that you're out of there. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.